wasn't rich, but I had 10 rentals between house hacking my own home and 9 other rental units at the age of 25. And I was essentially financially free. Not rich, but my monthly residual exceeded my monthly expenses. And so I thought I had it figured out, man. I chased some shiny objects, went completely broke within 2 years. And so the only house I had left was my primary residence, sold that, made $50,000. And I moved back to Ohio and moved in with my parents at 27 years old.
Welcome in, everybody. This is the Real Estate Level Up podcast, and I am excited to introduce you our guest today. We had been looking forward to this podcast very much. We'll continue the conversation, kind of like we was before we started recording. And who I have today is someone who started back nearly 20 years ago. He's someone who has bought thousands of multifamily apartment units now. I think he holds between 4,000 and 5,000, unless that number's increased since last I knew. We'll let him tell you. Someone who has been crushing it in the market, in raising money, in creating incredible AI software for property management. A husband, father of 3, lives in South Carolina, but that ain't where it started. Started in New York a few years ago, nearly 2 decades ago. So I'm just excited for you guys to hear from him. Also, I noticed last year he signed a $62 million loan he was talking about. I want to hear what that's about too. So get ready, grab your hot tea, grab your coffee, and let's dive in and welcome Tim Bratz. What's up, my brother?
What's up, man? Great to be here. Thank you for having me, and excited to always spend some time with you, Andrew.
Heck yeah. Well, let's dive in. I want to hear, how are things?
Yeah. So, I mean, hey, we could talk about a lot, right? Like there's a lot going on. The real estate market, and especially the multifamily, man, it's been up and down over the past 5 years. Like there's been more turmoil and more cyclical and outside of your control kind of things happening that are just arrows coming at us in every different direction, right? And sometimes it's really, really good, and sometimes it's really, really bad stuff. And everybody was all in on apartment buildings from 2017, 2018 into 2022 until rates started really jumping up. And 23, 24, and 25 were pretty tough years, man, for the multifamily and the apartment world, right? Like you have interest rates that have increased at a higher rate, at a steeper incline than ever in the history of the Federal Reserve in such a short amount of time. Labor costs have skyrocketed due to inflation. Material costs have skyrocketed due to inflation. Energy costs have skyrocketed due to inflation. There's been so many insurance claims that insurance has doubled, tripled, or quadrupled in several markets around the country over the past few years. And so, man, you're dealing with all these headwinds and roadblocks into trying to operate these apartment buildings the best way you possibly can. And it's just, you're hit with something different all the time. And so I think that's going to change. I think it's going to change in a big, big way. I would say the biggest adversity faced by a lot of operators is just bad third-party management, bad processes, bad systems, bad metrics, bad data. And I'm sure we'll talk about the AI software and stuff, but that's something that we're really working on combating in a big way. And I think will really help the industry in a huge way. So we could talk about that. And, but I think, again, the market's changing in a positive direction for rental real estate, at least for multifamily real estate. When you take a look at the landscape, there's a lot of things happening right now where, one, we're 4 million housing units short of what we need in this country, right? And we need another million a year in order to maintain and sustain with population growth, right? People coming of age, people moving to the country, things like that. 2, builders have been pencils down for 3 years. So
big one.
They're impacted big time by these interest rates. The interest rates have gone up. Their loans are predicated on that. And they were going up so steeply that they're like, I'm not going to build anything or risk banking land, getting approvals in place. They saw through projects that they had already started, which is why there's been consistent housing deliveries over the past few years. But since rates started going bonkers back in 2022 into 2023, there hasn't been new project starts that have happened. So, even if builders started buying land again today, which they are, right? They're starting to bank some properties and start taking on projects and things like that. You're talking about at least 24 to 36 months out before any of that stuff gets delivered. So you're looking at a timeline of at least 3 years where there's no new product coming online. We're going to be 7 million housing units short by that time. And anything that is coming online is going to be luxury stuff, right? You just literally cannot build and make a profit on workforce housing to build workforce housing today. So I think there's going to be a big movement towards people buying these 70s, 80s vintage type apartment complexes, which are very well located properties in most communities as well, right? It's right in downtown areas, walkable areas, to restaurants and shopping and all the stuff. They just need to be updated, right? Mechanicals need to be updated, roof, and then aesthetics and cosmetics updated. And if you get all that stuff updated, you can attract some really quality renters into an awesome location in your town. And by doing that, and also because your cost basis is so low, like you can buy these things for less than half the price of what it would cost to build something new.
Incredible.
Yeah, man. I mean, there's some really, really good opportunities and good deals out there, and you can then compete in a big way on rental rates, right? With some of the luxury stuff. Even though yours isn't luxury brand new, it could be really, really nice, and you can charge half the rent and attract all the quality tenants in town. So I do think there's going to be some big plays on that front. I also think, you can't build single family houses for less than $300,000 a house, I would think. And so if you can't do that, I think any single family home under a 300 grand is going to be a great opportunity. I think townhomes are a great opportunity. And the other thing that we're going to see is we're going to see a lot of condo conversions.
Yes.
We're going to see communities who have apartment buildings that you might only sell for, $80,000, be able to convert into a condo and then sell it to the tenants and sell it to owner occupants for $120,000 or $150,000 because there's nothing else that can compete with that price point in the area. So you're going to see a lot of that over the next few years. There's some red tape that we're going to have to get through with the cities, or some red tape you got to get through with the lenders and all that kind of stuff. But otherwise, I think those are some big opportunities that we're going to be looking at over the course of the next 5 years.
Now, question for you before we get into kind of where it started a couple decades back. How many units do you now have?
Yeah, so the most I ever had in my portfolio was 4,840 doors. I've actually sold off about 2,000 doors. So we'll go into my story and stuff, but I went very wide into 12 different states, multiple markets in each of those states. The way that I built my business was through some coaching and influence type stuff. And I sponsored loans and brought money and all that. And I went really, really wide. I would not suggest doing that, right? Because we got spread very thin.
Yep.
And over the course of the past few years, we've been selling off some of our portfolio. I'm at about 2,800 doors in my current portfolio right now. Awesome. And I'm actually trying to scale that back before we grow again. And really trying to just stick to the Ohio market, which is where I'm originally from, and the Carolinas, which is where I live today and where a lot of my team is located. So my team's heavily in those two locations. And that's really the main reason that I invest there, because I know those two markets really, really well. Not because they're the best markets in the world or the most cash flowing or the most appreciating or anything. Like, there's a lot of phenomenal markets.
Yeah.
I'm a bigger believer in investing in what you know and where you have resources. And again, we could dive into all this stuff, man. But
so true.
I've made a lot of mistakes and lost a lot of money, lost a lot of time, but also learned a lot along the way. And so happy to offer any sort of those insights to make sure that other people don't make the same mistakes that I did.
I want to hear about that. And, 100% same model in terms of buying where we know. People hear me talk about Indiana and Kentucky, and every once in a while somebody hit me up and go, this market's hotter. And I go, you're probably right. And I know these markets. Now, question for you, taking me back to New York, when you're renting out floor level properties in New York, like that journey from there to then buying over 7,000 units, holding between 4,000 and 5,000 of them, and then starting to downsize, like, how in the world did that happen? And I have a follow-up question as you're kind of describing that journey, because I want to start hearing advice as if you were talking to that 2 decades ago, Tim.
Yeah, well, I think, I was going through college 03 to 07 when the market was going bananas. And so everybody's like, get involved in real estate, because everybody was making money in real estate. People that weren't that smart were making a lot of money in real estate. I'm like, this guy can do it. I'm going to get rich doing this stuff, right? And so I decided to get in real estate. My brother lived in New York. I moved out there to live with him for free, because that's the only time I'll ever be able to live in New York for free. And found myself with a real estate license, and for some reason I parked it with a commercial brokerage instead of residential. And I represented business owners and I represented landlords in leasing primarily, and was an observer of a lot of investment sales and stuff too. And that complex that you're talking about, right? Like the first deal I ever leased out was a 400 square foot falafel shop for $10,000 a month, right? On a 12-year lease term.
That's crazy.
With, I think there was 4 or 5% annual escalations on the rent. Dude, you do the math. You're like, this landlord's making $2 million over the next decade for doing something one time. And that was like a slap in the face of, I need to own real estate. But you see, I've always had and been somebody who worked really, really hard, was, ran to the front of the line and hustled as much as I could, and always put in the effort, right, to try to get ahead, thinking like I wanted to achieve really, really cool things. And so I've always had that kind of mentality and that work ethic. And then when I opened up my eyes to what some of these people owned in New York City, right, and this is like generational wealth, like properties that are owned for 100 years at a time and just passed down, and they're owned free and clear, and all they do is just refinance it every decade, and they pull millions of dollars out tax free, and then they live on it, and then they just keep on managing their own property. It's like, oh, this is how real wealth, this is how long-term wealth and legacy wealth is built. That really, really got me excited. And so I knew I wanted to invest. I moved down to Charleston, South Carolina, just because I love New York, visiting New York.
And that was 2008, right? You moved to Charleston?
Yeah, 2008, moved to Charleston. And like right before the crash, right? I moved in like June, July of 2008. And I'm like, I'm going to get involved in real estate. Yeah. And so I'm taking all the classes. I'm trying to learn as much as possible. I'm following the gurus. It was like on blogs back then. And going to the real estate investors associations, trying to figure things out, and met a guy who started doing like short sale type stuff. And then the market collapsed, right? The market collapses, short sales are all over, REO deals are all over. I'm trying to like learn as we go, realize I don't want to be in business with that guy because he wasn't doing things the right way. And got to a point where I'm like, there's deals everywhere, like unbelievable prices. And that's, I think, a hard thing for people to wrap their head around. 15 years ago, it's like, oh my gosh, I would have bought everything. Well, yeah, if you could get money. But right. Nobody was lending on real estate 15 years ago. Like literally nobody, because the reason of the great financial collapse occurred because of real estate. That was at least in all the headlines, and everybody's pointing its finger at real estate. So nobody wanted it. There was so much supply, and there was zero demand for it, and there was zero money for it, from institutional lenders, from private lenders, from hard money lenders, from whatever you're looking. Like you couldn't get money, especially a 23-year-old kid who's never done a deal before, right? And so nobody's giving me money in 2008 to go and buy rental real estate. But I'm seeing these deals for like 20 grand, 30 grand houses, and I'm like, the only person giving me money is Chase, right? It's my MasterCard. And so I called them up. I asked them to increase my limit from $3,000 to $100,000. And they said, absolutely not. And, but we'll give you 15. And I was like, oh, okay. I'll
Better
take
than
that.
None.
And dude, and I just went in at sub $15,000 offers on all these $25,000 and $30,000 houses. And I got one of them. And, one of the early seminars I went to, the dude on stage was like, hey, if you're not embarrassed by your offer, you're offering too much money, right? And so that was the mentality that I went in with. It's like, oh, well, maybe I'll offer 20,000, but I don't have 20,000. I got to find it. But I'm not that embarrassed by it. Maybe I got to go down to 12, right? And so that was this mentality of buying. And so like we picked up that house and I flipped it, and I made, in 110 days, I made like $13,000. And that was the biggest check I ever made up to that point in my life. And I'm thinking, everybody's saying run from real estate, and I just made the most money I've ever made. Like,
it's a game changer.
Something here. Yeah, there's something here. And so I did it again. And then all of a sudden, just being relevant and talking about it, and people had money. They just didn't want to invest in real estate. And then eventually it came up where like somebody's like, hey, I got 100 grand.
Yeah.
Like, could I give it to you? And could you like pay me some, or would we do like an equity split? And I went and bought 5 houses on a street with $100,000.
What year was
not that bad of an area. These are $275,000 houses today in Charleston, South Carolina.
You probably vomit every time you drive down that street.
Oh man. They were a good stepping stone, and I know where it got me. So I don't have too much, remorse over selling them. It was the right thing to do at the time. But dude, I bought these things. I put like lipstick on a pig, really just cleaned them out, put a few $1,000s into each one of them, and got them rented. I was into them for less than $25,000 a door, and they were rented for like $700 to $800 a month. And I wasn't rich, but I had 10 rentals between house hacking my own home and 9 other rental units at the age of 25. And I was essentially financially free. Not rich, but my monthly residual exceeded my monthly expenses. And so I thought I had it figured out, man. I chased some shiny objects and went completely broke within 2 years. And so I had $25,000 in credit card debt, had $80 in my bank account in 2012, and ended up moving back. I sold the only house I had left was my primary residence, sold that, made $50,000. Thank God, that saved me. And I moved back to Ohio and moved in with my parents at 27 years old. And I was like, all right, I know this works.
Yeah.
I just made some stupid mistakes. I chased some shiny objects in other businesses. Cleveland was even lower priced than Charleston, South Carolina, right? And so I was like, I can get back into this. I just need to find someone with money. And actually somebody reached out to me, tapped me on the shoulder, said, hey man, like we got into this business so that way we could invest in real estate, and we would love to kind of back you, and we'll give you $300,000 to start out with.
It's an answer to prayer.
Oh yeah,
Game
it was
changer.
amazing.
Yeah.
And so, it's one of those things, man, when life throws a bunch of stuff at you and you're like, this isn't for me. Let's cut the friction out of my life. Let's cut the headaches out of my life. And you close a door, a window opens up, right? Yeah. Another door opens up. There's other opportunities that pop that you're not seeing because you're so inundated, so in the weeds on whatever you're doing.
And I want to add to that, Tim, what you just shared, and for everybody watching this, we find ourselves, and I hear this as a common theme from people who have succeeded, had successes, had a bump in the road, maybe had some low times, and that is what changes the perspective, what you just said. You're not sick about selling the $275,000 houses a decade ago for so much less because it got you to where you are now, essentially.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you this as you're kind of going back down memory lane and thinking about all the things and experiences you had there, going broke in 2012, like talking to someone, they've had that real estate success. Maybe they've done 10 deals, they've done 100 deals, they've done a dozen, but they're going, I want to make this shift to multifamily. What would have you told Tim in 2012 that you would have now been equally or more successful even than you already are?
Oh man, I think, there's a few things that happen that I can look back at and I was like, this was a point that changed the trajectory. And I would say one from a skill set standpoint. No, I'm gonna go to the other one. When I learned about mentorship and specifically masterminds, everything changed for me, because that one thing taught me the different skills that I needed on how to build a team. Right. I would say that the top 3 would be joining a mastermind, learning how to raise private money, and learning how to build a team. Those 3 things, I think there's no chance I'd be where I am without those 3 things. But the mastermind was a catalyst that led to the others, right? Yeah. The mastermind taught me how to raise money, taught me how to be strategic and creative on capital raising, introduced me to a lot of rockstar business people who had cash that wanted to invest. And so that all compounded in the capital raising side of things. In the team building side of things, same thing. Right? I show up as a solopreneur to the first mastermind event I ever went to, and they're like, dude, you just got to hire an assistant. Right? I'm looking at big businesses, looking at executive teams. I'm trying to figure out, how do I start?
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, just hire an assistant, right? And just take all the stuff that doesn't make money and all the stuff you don't like doing and just put it on a list. And that's the roles and responsibilities for your assistant. I was like, that's it. That's how simple it needs to be. They're like, yeah, just start there. And then, right, we'll work on the next step. But like, start there. And I did that. And I took my income, the most I ever made, first year I ever made $100,000. 6 figures, made like $130,000 in 2014, right? So I went to a mastermind in February of 2015, hired my assistant March 1st of 2015.
Action taker.
And in the next 10 months, I made $400,000.
Wow.
Right? Complete game changer between those 2 things, becoming a member of a mastermind, attending a mastermind. And I like masterminds more than individual mentors because I like having many mentors, right?
Yeah.
I show up to a mastermind event and I have lots of people. There might be somebody who might not have the biggest business, but they have their health dialed in. Man, this guy's ripped. Or family life and just, quality of life is really, really dialed in. Like that stuff to me is far more important than just making a bunch of money. And so, but I also want to learn how to make a bunch of money and do it the smart way. And I take and select certain things from different people in order to then be able to utilize it and implement it in my own business. And you take what you like and you leave what you don't, kind of thing, and then you can attack that. So I really like masterminds. I think people think they want one-on-one coaching sometimes. And that sounds like, but I think small group stuff is far more valuable because there's people in the room who ask questions that I would have never have asked or never thought to ask. And all of a sudden light bulbs start going off. And so that to me was so highly valuable. And it led me down this path of being able to do everything else. And so that would be the advice that I gave to my 20-year-old self or 23-year-old self, 17 years ago. I would have said, join a mastermind that much sooner.
How big or small is your team right now?
Man, I have multiple businesses, but I have 50 employees ish, W-2. And then there's probably 100 like 1099 type people that work almost exclusively for us.
So that 150 people, I want to hear your philosophy around hiring. Cause a lot of people who maybe either hired their first assistant already or maybe haven't yet. And they're going kind of like you mentioned, right? Like I need an executive team, but where the heck do I begin? Start small, hire your assistant. A game changer. It was for me. It has been for you. Now with 150 team members, 50 on payroll or so and outside, like what's the philosophy? How do you find the right people? Because something I commonly hear is it's just hard to find good people. And I don't believe that's actually the case. I think when you're great people, you attract great people, except there's also some truth to the work environment has changed. And so I just want to hear your philosophy behind that. Where do you find these people? How do you connect? What questions do you ask? Like go into Tim's brain for me.
Yeah, man. Great question. This is a great topic to dive into. So number one, everybody, if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have a team, start with an assistant.
Yes.
And you're going to get all the non-revenue generating stuff off your plate. You as the owner of your business need to just be obsessed over revenue generating activities. Okay. So that's number one. Eliminate the non-revenue stuff. It's going to give you 10 times as much time, right? Like if you really looked at how much you actually do in revenue generating activities on a daily basis, it's probably less than an hour. And because you're doing all this non-revenue stuff, if you eliminate the 7-8 hours of non-revenue stuff and you can spend 6 hours, right? You're spending 6 times as much time doing the revenue generating activities. So having awareness over that is going to be key. Hiring assistant first. The next person that I would hire would be, after an assistant, would be a revenue generating employee, right? It would be an acquisitions person. It would be a salesperson of some role that then gets consistent lead flow and can help with transacting on a consistent basis. Because otherwise, you're going to have all this deal flow and then you're going to get into operations mode and stop marketing and stop doing acquisitions. And you're going to work on the deals, get them to market, put them on the market for sale, and you're going to say, oh, there's nothing left in the pipeline now, and I have to go start over again. You're going to have these feast and famine cycles if you don't have consistent revenue generation. So that's number 2 hire. And then you go back to operations. As you have consistent, and you keep on going back and forth with hiring more operations people, hiring more acquisitions or revenue generating roles. And so that's how I've built my team. And then you get to a point where you have fractional accounting and fractional bookkeeping, and you grow enough where now you can bring them in-house, right? And so I think a lot of that stuff can be done on a fractional or part-time basis, and you find a bookkeeper once a month is how I started. And then it was once a week, and then it was 2 days a week, and then it was like, all right, we just need you on full-time, and we brought someone in full-time. And then we had 2 bookkeepers, and then we have a CFO, and then we have, it's like you just kind of organically grow and you start adding people on as you get there. From a question of how you attract the right people, I would say twofold. One is I'm not a great hirer. I want to help everybody and I want to give everybody a job, right? And I'm like I'm like that girl in high school who always dated the jerk guy who's like, I can change him, right? And I was like, oh, well, I can help this person, even though they've been a deadbeat their whole life and they've never accomplished anything. I'm going to give them an opportunity, right? And then I realize why nobody else gives them a job, you know? And then I wait way too long to fire them, and then it costs me a bunch of money and headache and heartache inside the organization. So don't do that. Find somebody who's an expert at this stuff. And there's, I mean, so many headhunters out there. There's so many like people who go and can find this role, right? And they can market for that role. They can go on all the different websites and Indeed and all those in order to get 100 applicants in. And then they will screen all the applicants and bring me the top 5 to 10 of them. And actually, no, they'll screen them and get down to like 10, and then they'll have phone calls with all of them. Then they bring me the top 3 to 5. I interview them, but I also have my team interview them because my team is in the weeds with these people, and they're actually answering my team. And again, I'm too agreeable in many scenarios like that. So I make sure they get interviewed by probably 3 different people on my team. We get back together and we have a general consensus. Is this person a good fit? That's one way that we find people. What I have found, and a lot of people say, hey, don't hire friends, don't hire family, don't hire people that you know. I have found the best employees, longest term employees, most loyal employees that I have on my team are people that came from my warm network.
Yeah.
People who I went to high school with, but maybe wasn't like best friends with, but they were like a grade, my COO was a grade or 2 behind me. And I saw this kid's work ethic, and he literally had 3 full-time jobs at one time. And we were co-wholesaling some stuff together. I'm like, how do you keep your head above water? He's like, dude, if I had $3,000 a month, just steady, I could work full-time with you. I was like, here's $10,000 up front and $3,000 a month. Come on payroll. And now he's my COO. My chief financial officer, or like really chief investment officer, was my attorney for 7 years. We played basketball together in high school, and then after that, he was an attorney. I utilized him for a lot of like the business general practice stuff, and after 7 years, I was like, man, I could use you on my team. You know, you give a lot of validity because of your legal background in our ability to go and raise money. And I need constant contract type stuff, like lease negotiation, sales negotiation. I was spending so much money on it where it just justified me paying somebody, you know, X number of dollars in order to come on and bring them on full time. But that's somebody I knew, and I knew their work ethic for 15 years. Many people on my team came from either referrals from other team members that they knew, or people that I knew, like my buddy's wife, right, who wanted to stay at home with the kids, but has a rock star work ethic, has multiple degrees, and needed something with a little bit more flexibility in their schedule. Like those kinds of relationships I've hired and had tremendous success with. And I think that, you know, maybe like a degree away, not a first degree best friend kind of a person, but, you know, 2 degrees away maybe, of somebody that you know, somebody that you respect, somebody that you trust, refers someone to you. They're not going to send you some dope, right? And you're going to be able to get somebody who understands the culture right out of the gate, has the work ethic, doesn't want to let their friend down who referred them, right? There's a lot of that kind of stuff from a mentality standpoint that you're going to attract some really, really good quality talent. But it all comes down to this, which is what you said at the very beginning, which is if you want to attract good talent, you have to be the kind of leader that people want, that are attracted to, right?
So
you
true.
have to be the kind of person that if you want loyalty on your team, you have to show loyalty to your team. If you want work ethic from your team, you have to show work ethic to your team, right? Answering email, like, it just comes with the territory. If you want certain values on your team, you better convey those values verbally and in all of your actions, in everything that you do, in order to then attract those kinds of people to your team. That's one. And then the second part of being a great leader is casting the vision, right? When I hire somebody, I'm not hiring them for this role. I'm talking to them in the job interview that here's where you're at. But let me tell you about my COO, where he started. Let me tell you about our mid-level management team. Let me tell you about our regional asset managers who have equity invested into equity because they've been with us for a decade. They went to this position, this role, got here, and now they have equity ownership across our portfolio, right? And they get profit share, revenue share, or whatever that looks like. That's what I want to see from you, Andrew. Like, that's why we're sitting down right now, because I see some big things in you. Do you have that kind of a commitment? Do you have that kind of a vision? Is this something that aligns with what you're looking for in your career? And right, you set that stage early on.
It's powerful.
And you follow through on it, right? You're taking care of them, and you're making sure that when you do have a great year, man, share, right? And share the love and pay it all out, and make sure your team's taken care of as well. And when you have a tough year, they're going to be on board because they understand everything's cyclical, and we're going to push through. Like right now, over the past couple of years, we've had some very, very difficult deals. We only in-house managed like 200 or 300 doors before, like 24 months ago. We now in-house manage over 2,000 doors. Right,
well, that's been a
we've built
mover.
out big time.
How did that shift?
Out of desperation, out of need, right? Yeah. Because we just had to. Like these third-party management companies were driving properties into the ground. And so guess what? We've been doing a lot of not fun stuff, and it's been not fun, right? But now that we have the software and we got some other stuff going on and everybody's excited about all these things, it's I'm trying to paint the vision of like, guess what? There's light at the end of the tunnel. We just rounded third base, right? We're almost home.
Yeah.
And we're going to have all these headaches off our plate, and we're going to be doing some fun stuff that's highly lucrative. It's exciting, and have a little bit of lifestyle back. Thank you guys for all your hard work and blah, blah, blah. Like that's the kind of conversations you need to be having. So that way they know that there's some sort of a vision. If the vision's not clear for you, how does a team know what they're looking at, right? Or what the future could look like. So that's really, really, really critical.
You said a lot of very powerful things there, and thank you for that. And with hiring, it's something we talk about all the time in our community is like culture first, right? And I know you lead a whole mastermind now and do a coaching and help others get started. And it's incredible, except it always starts with culture first, and that comes to the leadership, which in this case, speaking of yourself, leading your company. And I think that's the part, because I've experienced both sides of that, where you hire the wrong people, as I know you have, no doubt at times. And now, of course, my closest friend is my business partner as well. And my brother leads our sales team. My sister runs all of our numbers in the back end. And so you start to put the pieces together, and as your team expands, all of us hit bottlenecks, and it's a matter of how quickly we can solve those bottlenecks, how fast we grow. Now, before I get to the groundbreaking software that you've been working on that is changing a lot of things, you've poured millions of dollars into it. You've been working on it for many years, and I'm beyond excited to hear about that. Before we go there, I want to hear just a little bit about Tim, the lifestyle you've chose to build, the culture you lead with, wife, 3 kids, just got back from Africa. Like, tell me about that side of Tim, and then we'll dive into software.
Yeah, man. I love that question. As entrepreneurs, we get so inundated by the dollars and the decimals and like the quantitative stuff that you can actually measure. And the easiest stuff that we can measure is dollars, right? And so you're always business oriented. How many deals am I closing? How many doors am I buying? Like, and that's the stuff that we spend so much time and so much energy on. And it got to a point where like my daughter was, I think she's 10 now. She was probably 2 or 3 years old at the time. And, I'm sitting there at my desk this is a Thursday night. We just had family dinner, and it's 5 or 6 o'clock or something. We just eat, and I go over to like my little office nook and my desk over there, and I look at my phone, and I'm answering some text messages and got my computer open. Like, this is family time, right? I'm at my desk right now, and I only had one kid, or maybe like my son might have just been born. And my daughter comes up to me right before bedtime. Daddy, will you come over here and play with me? Right? And I say, yeah, hold on. And I'm texting, and Daddy, she's tugging on my shirt. I was like, baby, go over there and play. I'll be over there in like 2 minutes. Okay. 5 minutes later, she's playing by herself. It's almost my wife, Kate, she's like, all right, bedtime. I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm looking down at the text message, and it wasn't important and it wasn't urgent. And I pushed off my daughter during family time for some level of business stuff that it wasn't relevant and could have totally waited until the next day. And I was like, oh my gosh. It was such a punch in the gut. My stomach was turning. I put the phone down. I went and played. I was like, hey, I need like 5-10 minutes, Mom. Come on, we're going to play a little bit longer, right? We're going to stay up late tonight. And so we played for like 10 minutes. We put her to bed. I canceled everything the next day. And I said, from now on, we're doing Friday Family Fun Day. And so she got to choose, right? Until she went to school. Whatever we did. It would be going to Chipotle. It would be going to the zoo. It would be going to the playground. It would be taking a walk around the block. It would be taking the dog to the park. It would be something big, going to a museum, or something fun and exciting like that, or something as simple as just going out to eat and going and getting a muffin and coffee, and she's got her milk or something. And we did that until both my kids went to school. Like, we literally had Friday Family Fun Day for, I don't know, the next 5 years or whatever it was, until they started going to school on a full-time basis, 4 years. And so we still do that. I have a 3-year-old now, and she's not in school yet. So I don't book anything on Fridays. I don't have any calls, any meetings, nothing on Fridays. And here's what I found. When I look back at my schedule, and I started seeing these wasted time, right? And I started becoming more efficient. When I said, hey, I'm not taking any phone calls after 4 p.m. anymore. And unless, if everybody's sleeping, or if I'm at a mastermind and I'm traveling for work, yeah, dude, I'm going to jump on phone. I'm going to jump on an email. I'm going to do stuff with the family's not around. But when I'm in town, the family's here, I'm not taking phone calls after 4 p.m. So that's one. I started time blocking. I realized I time block when I looked at my calendar for all these business meetings, but I'm not doing it for my family. And I wasn't doing it for my health either, for working out and stuff. And so I started blocking out my calendar in ways that, hey, I'm going to work out every morning at 8 o'clock and go to a fitness class. It forces me to work out. It's in the time block. I don't double schedule meetings for that. And if you don't time block it for your family, you're going to fill it with something else. It's going to get filled up with a business meeting. It's going to get filled up with a business call. It's going to get filled up with a podcast episode. It's going to fill up with let's go grab coffee or whatever. So I started doing things. I stopped grabbing coffee with people, right? I said, hey, here's the issue with coffee. It's going to take me 20 minutes to drive there minimum, 20 minutes to drive back, the obligatory hour that we have to sit there and talk about things. Let's hop on a phone call for 15 minutes and hammer out whatever you want to talk about, as opposed to meeting for an hour and 45 minutes. So I started doing things like that. And counterintuitively, you think that you're going to do less business because you're scaling back the amount of hours that you spend in business.
The opposite.
Completely opposite.
I agree.
Completely opposite. Because you trim the stuff that doesn't matter. You trim the stuff and you become more efficient in the hours that you have dedicated to economics. And so now you're doing one-to-many activities. You're doing evergreen type of activities. Creating content is one of those things. Creating like frequently asked question videos that is now on your website. Doing a social media post that you put out one time and now it's on Facebook forever, and people can look at it in the middle of the night and it goes out. It's a conversation that you would have with one person that can now go out to 300 people that see it, right? Powerful stuff. We got a lot of powerful tools that people just aren't using the right way, you know? And so the time management component is critical from a lifestyle standpoint. So that would be the first part that I would mention for anybody who's having banging their head against the wall and how do I get more time in a day? Well, Jeff Bezos has the same 24 hours that we do, right? So does Elon Musk. So does every other major business owner. The reason that they can do it is they understand how to time block. They understand how to use exponential factor actions as opposed to 1 + 1. They're not doing additive. They're doing multiplier and exponential. And they know how to build a team, right? The team part really helps you buy back a lot of your time.
Huge.
The other thing that I would mention is, have you read the book Die with Zero?
Not yet.
Really good book. Die with Zero. You would love it. From you're a lifestyle guy and understand how to value that stuff. We run through our lives with this idea, this mentality of optimizing for the most money possible, right? And making the most money as humanly possible. And that's not the right way to do it. Here's why. Because we all get to an age of retirement where we realize we have too much money. When we retire, call it 60, 70 years old, your kids are 30 or 40 years old, right? Or older. They have their own careers. They have their own investments. They have their own responsibilities, their own house, their own stuff going on. They don't need your money anymore. And so you're saving all this money and you realize you don't spend as much because your kids are out of school, they're out of college, you're not supporting them. You want to downsize your house. You don't care about having a big fancy loud car. You don't care, like, so your expenses come down. You don't have to support other people and you have all this money saved. And here's the other realization. You're 70 years old. You can't do the same things you can do when you're 40, body-wise, physically, right? And you come to retirement and you have this big bucket list of things you want to accomplish and you can't do that bucket list. You can't hike Mount Kilimanjaro anymore. You can't, skydive or bicycle ride through Italy or, run a marathon or like do those things at that age. So what Die with Zero talks about is optimizing your life for lifestyle and enjoyment, right? Optimizing for lifestyle, optimizing for fulfillment more so than just making money. And if you optimize for fulfillment, here's specifically how he does it, is he's got a bucket list, right? So I have a bucket list. I made a bucket list when I was 20 years old of all the things I want to do, places I want to go, things I want to achieve, events I want to attend. It's easy to make a bucket list of like 20 or 30 items. If you dedicate time to make 100-item bucket list, it starts getting kind of hard. Like you start getting creative. Like I want to create a treasure hunt with $1 million prize at the end and just do like clues all over the country and let it turn into something. I want to pay for some random kid to go to college that I've never met before, all because they have, what it takes and want to believe in them. I want to walk my daughter down the aisle is on my bucket list, right? Like things like that are things that are on my bucket list that you wouldn't come across. Like I want to go to Greece, right? Like that's on everybody's bucket list. Or I want to go to Italy, or I want to go to whatever. When you got to go to 100, it really, really stretches you. And what you'll find is as you look back at that, you can compartmentalize it into different decades of your life. These are the things I need to do in my 30s or 40s or 20s because they're more physical activities. These are things that can wait until I'm 60 or 70 years old because it's just whatever it is. Or I'm waiting for life to happen in order to then be able to do that. And what it does is it compartmentalizes your goals. It compartmentalizes your bucket list and these things that you want to achieve. And then you realize I don't have 50 years to accomplish my bucket list. I have this decade, right? I have 5 more years and I have to knock out these things in this decade because who knows where my health is going to be? Who knows where this is going to be? And so when you put constraints on your life, when you put constraints in your business, in anything, right? You got a business constraint. You got to raise $1 million by Monday. Well, you're going to get it done because the constraints, right? If I told you, hey, you got 3 months to raise $1 million, it's going to take you 3 months to do it. But constraints tighten up timeframes. And so by tightening up the time frame on your bucket list and on these goals, lifestyle type things that you want to achieve, it forces you to accomplish them sooner. So I got very serious about this about 1.5 years ago. And last year we went to Hawaii. We went to Canada, we went to Ireland, we went to England, we went to France, we went to Greece, and then over the holidays, or really New Year's and into the beginning of January, we went to Africa. Went to South Africa, did a safari, did Victoria Falls. It's been on my bucket list for 20 years to take a helicopter ride around Victoria Falls. Got to do that. Went on this unbelievable safari, man, for 4 different safaris over the course of 4 days. And it was just, dude, it was a blast. And I'm taking my kids. And you know what's wild about it is you don't even realize, like, it's expensive, don't get me wrong, but like you don't really realize the money's missing. For entrepreneurs, we have this financial thermostat where when the money goes down, we just do the revenue activities in order to get it back up to where it should be in the bank account. So it's like, you're like, oh, I need to save up. No, you don't. Just go and spend the money, go and do it. And everything just starts falling in place where you start generating more revenue again. I made $450,000 while I was in Africa. I don't know. Didn't even expect it to happen, right? Made 450 grand while we were there on this epic journey that I would have delayed until after I made 450,000. No, you do it right now, man. So
what if you're like me, every time you leave town, something pops that you've been trying to get to pop. And I'm so glad you said that because Leo and myself, we just went to Japan over his birthday, my girlfriend, his girlfriend. and incredible trip. We was talking about something because we talk about as entrepreneurs ROI, right? Return on investment. We was talking about return on memories, because if you have a certain memory in your 20s or in your 30s or 40, you've only got so much time to live out and enjoy that memory. And growing up without a lot of money, some of my incredible memories are going on a bike ride with dad, right? Or mom making a dog-shaped chocolate cake for my birthday, right? Those little things that didn't even take dollars. It just took the intention. And I think that's such a beautiful thing that you're describing there. And it's easy to get caught up in the which dollar's next, which deal's next. And I love that perspective. I want to hear from you.
Memory dividends is what I call it. When you call it return on memories, think about this. Think about, right, kids that you take your kids on these trips. You go on these trips. Like I studied abroad in college and I lived in Europe for 4 months and I visited 10 countries. Do you understand how many conversations I've had with people about these countries in Europe over the past 20 years since I studied abroad that have given me a link to somebody that I would have never had if I didn't go and do that, right? So it's a return on memory, but it has like a financial impact too, because now you have a deeper connection. You're more cultured, you're more interesting. You can have more conversations with people and connect with them at a deeper level that you never would have been able to previously. You and I are talking about Africa right now. Oh, hey, Tim, I always wanted to go to Africa. I always wanted to go on a safari. If I didn't go, we wouldn't be having this conversation, right? It's those kinds of things that pay dividends, right? Return on memory or memory dividends that pay dividends for the rest of your life. And think about your kids, right? And them getting this at such a young age. And all of a sudden they have these conversations and can talk to people in a cultured manner and see things that aren't just living in an oceanfront house in Charleston, South Carolina, right, without any worries on money whatsoever. I want them to see Africa and how people live in corrugated metal huts and sleep on the ground floor, right? I want them to see these different cultures and taste the different food and see these things so that way they get exposed to what life could be like if they didn't win the lottery by being born in the United States in this day and age, to the parents that they got, right? Like in the zip code that they were born into, like all the different things that they, just drew a lucky lottery ball with. Like they have to be exposed to all this other stuff. And so it makes them better human beings and makes them more interesting for more success in the future.
Incredible perspective shift like that.
Yeah, man.
Anything else on that before we dive into the last segment and talk about this groundbreaking software you're working on?
Let's talk about the pivot, right?
Yeah.
A lot of pain points, right? Now listen, I love commercial real estate. I love apartment investing. I think the way that I did it was wrong in a couple of manners. Again, I went too wide. I trusted people, joint venture partners, to do their job. I gave up way too much. I gave up, exactly, right? I gave up way too much decision-making ability to the management, third-party management companies. There's a lot of things that I would do differently. I didn't force people like the operating partners to bring money to the deals, right? So they had no skin in the game. There's a lot of little things like that I would have done very, very differently and probably not had the hurdles that I had over the past 3 years in multifamily investing. That being said, because I made all those mistakes, because I did a bunch of dumb stuff, and I did deals out of state and had these opportunities. I raised money from people. And one of the individuals that came in and invested was a very high level software engineer at a $45 billion company. He was way up top, had a bunch of money, and invested with me in a deal. And he's like, let me bring my engineering brain into your asset management calls and give you some feedback on things. And what he found was we had a software for a CRM. We had a software for workflow management, Monday.com. We had property management software, Appfolio. We had QuickBooks, because Appfolio doesn't keep all the different accounting on the ownership level. We had communication, email platform software, text message platform software, people working inside their personal Gmail and working on their cell phones, which isn't documented in the software and communication with tenants or any of that stuff. We had a DocuSign folder that had a bunch of documents in it. We had a Google Drive folder with a bunch of other documents. We had a stuff written on a whiteboard that nobody else could see unless you were in the office. We had stuff in literally 15 different places. And because we had stuff in 15 different places, none of it was communicating, none of it was talking. And on a 30-minute asset management call, 25 of those minutes were spent getting everybody on the same page. And there were manual hours spent previous to like sending a report and saying, hey, here's all the stuff, and let me update this email so we can all work off the same thing. I mean, so many man hours annually spent on this, and a lot of money spent on it too. So the first idea here was, he came to me and said, Tim, let's sit down. This is in June of 2021, and said, I want to create a software that is on all-in-one solution, right? So it's got everything. It's got the payment processing. It's got the accounting. It's got everything. You can have, instead of working, it's like driving a car down the road and only looking in the rearview mirror, trying to drive straight. That's what managing properties is like when you get financials on the 15th of the following month. You're always in reactionary mode, and there's no chance that you're not going to crash the car, right? Because you're always looking behind you as opposed to what's going to happen in front of you. And, the financial projections, they're all plucked from thin air. None of it ever stands. There's no accountability around any of it. And you're relying on certain people who don't have the skill set to do these financial targeting and financial projections to give you the financial projections, right? And it's just like, they just fill in stuff. Not only that, but there's all sorts of inefficiencies on the operations side, on the leasing side, on the management side, like all sorts of issues. So the idea was, let's create an all-in-one software. And let's layer it with all these automations and standard operating procedures and true metrics and KPIs that matter in financial impact to a property. Because that's how our properties are valued. They're valued based on the income approach. Right. And you take the revenue minus expenses equals the NOI, and then that NOI is valued at a cap rate, which is a multiple on the property. So anything that doesn't focus on that is a distraction and is a non-revenue generating activity. So we've built the software over the past 4.5 years. My partner left and stole the top 3 developers that he's ever worked with. And he worked for Northrop Grumman, and he worked for some big defense contractors, big software engineering firm. And he left when brought these guys on. We gave them equity. They have money in skin in the game. I have skin in the game with my team. And for the past 4 years, we didn't develop some minimum viable product. We built an absolute platform. It is a business in a box. You don't need any other softwares to manage multifamily real estate. It does literally everything you would expect from a property management software, and exponentially more. Like, we've used AppFolio, Entrata, Rent Manager, RealPage, Yardi, Buildium, all of them. We've used them all, and none of them touch, not even close, what Smart Management does. So with all the AI stuff that we've brought out and everything else, we do some really, really ninja stuff inside the software, giving real true metrics in real time with reconciled financials outside of cash transactions. We don't even take cash transactions. So in my portfolio, everything is reconciled in real time because it links to the bank account with the property management software, with our ownership financials and everything. And we can see real time where the finances are, real time economic occupancy, not just physical occupancy, right? We were talking offline about how people, we always get reports on here's what the occupancy is. Oh, and then there's this for the delinquency report. Oh, and there's this with concessions that are made, and here's what's pre-leased. And I'm looking at all these different metrics. Nobody's got them all combined. Are the pre-leases replacing a tenant that's under eviction, a non-payer, or a paying tenant, right? Not only there's this many under eviction, there's this many notices to vacate, right? Nothing has an algorithm until we created one for this. So that's one piece out of hundreds that it does.
Question for you on that software. Is it for multifamily only? Is it for single family as well?
It is for anything that has a rent that's paid on a monthly basis.
Is there a minimum number of units you need?
No, but there'll be a minimum expense. So it kind of it's $5 per unit per month.
Okay.
That's it. No hidden fees, no nonsense, nothing like that. It's not like if you go and sign up for Yardi, it's it's dynamic pricing and it's this and it's, and then there's all these hidden fees and all these other expenses and all these other stuff that you got to pay for. And it ends up being $10 or $15 or $30, whatever it is, per unit per month. And so, a lot of these other companies, they make it confusing on purpose to then extract as much money as possible from you. We, right, are using this in our own portfolio. It's built by operators for operators. It's $5 per unit per month in order to use the software, but there will be a minimum of $200 per account on a monthly basis. So if you don't have, 40 doors that you're managing, you're just paying a little bit more for the software. But I'm telling you, it covers itself 10 times over just by what it does. Like, I'll give you an example. Like leasing, right? How come leasing and lease renewals, specifically? Let's talk about lease renewals. Here's how it normally works right now. Oh, a lease is coming up for renewal this month. All right, you're waiting on somebody to manually reach out to that tenant to see if they want to renew. If the employee actually does it and follows through on their roles and responsibilities, they might get feedback. Tenant says, no, I'm moving out. No problem. Let me know when you're out. I'll come and get the keys and we'll do a walkthrough. They do a walkthrough. They give the keys to the property manager. They take pictures of the unit. They then call in a contractor. The contractor comes in and gives a quote, starts a week later after that, and then takes 2 weeks to do the work. Then the work is done. Then they take pictures of the unit. Then they start marketing it. Then they sign a lease. And now we're talking 2 to 3 months later, right? If you want to maintain 90% occupancy, you cannot have a vacancy of any given unit for more than 2.5 weeks. Basic economics, right? Do the math, right? On a 52 weeks a year, right? You want to maintain 90% or 95% occupancy, which is our goal. We cannot have vacancy of more than 2.5 weeks on any given unit. So that's a bad system. That's a bad process and a bad way that it's done. A better way to do it is, how about the system automatically through an AI agent? That's not a real person. It's just an email that goes out by AI 90 days out with a very tactful script that we've put in place, reaches out to the tenant and says, hey, Andrew, your lease comes up in 90 days. You've been paying rent in a timely manner. You've been an amazing tenant. We'd love for you to stay. You're paying $1,000 a month in rent. Market rate is really $1,100. I'll tell you what, if you renew your lease right now for another 12 months, we'll only bump you by 2%.
Yeah.
So $20 instead of $100 a month bump. And by the way, if you don't renew now, that's okay. Next month, I'll follow back up, but it's going to go up to, we'll probably do a 3 or 4% rent bump. The next month, if it goes month to month, you got to go to $1,100 a month, right? And so it follows up 90 days out, 60 days out, 30 days out with incremental incentives for the tenant to sign a lease, and it notifies the team when a lease is signed. If it gets signed, it gets automatically uploaded into the system, tags to that unit, tags to that property, tags to that tenant. No human interaction whatsoever. If they say, no, I got to move out, I'm moving to California because my daughter just had a baby and I'm going to be a grandma and I'm moving out, no worries. Hang on a second, buddy. Hang on a second.
All good, brother.
Can you still hear him barking?
Vaguely, it's all right. What's his name?
Oxford.
Yeah.
That's went to Miami of Ohio, which is in Oxford, Ohio.
Oh, that's awesome.
So if they say, hey, I got to move out, no worries. Are you okay if I send out someone from our team to just take a walk through the unit with you to make sure you can get your full deposit back, and we'll let you know if there's anything that needs to be taken care of before you move out. And no problem. The manager will go out to the property, walk the property, create a scope of work, take pictures right then and there, and they will tactfully have a conversation with the tenant that says, hey, can I update your kitchen while you're still here? Or can I do this? Can I do that? Or that even if they can't do it while the tenant's still in the unit, which we've had the audacity to ask and actually complete and do in the past, even if they can't, we at least have a scope of work and we know exactly what it's going to take in order to then turn the unit. So we can now share that scope of work with pictures, with square footage, with measurements and everything with the contractor. We can get pricing. We can get materials ordered. He can line up with plenty of time, his crew, so that the day the tenant moves out, the contractor is there turning the unit, getting it turned in a matter of a couple of days. We're pre-leasing it, right? Because now we know what's in the pipeline. So the leasing team's aware that this one's coming vacant. and will be available as of March 1st, right? And so when March 1st comes around, we have a tenant that we can market to right now, 2 months in advance, because anybody who's qualified is trying to be proactive in their moving in and moving out stuff. So there's not a lot of urgent tenancies that happen with qualified renters. So now the marketing team has what they need, and that unit comes up on the website automatically, and someone can apply for that unit. The construction team's ready to rock and roll and turn that unit, and we can have literally somebody moved in within 5 to 7 days after a unit becomes vacant. That is all automated throughout the process with smart management. And it's not automated in anything else, right? You have to have awesome systems in place in order to then pursue operations in that manner. And what we've done is we've taken all of our SOPs and integrated it into the platform. So if you don't have 7,000 units of experience, you can use ours, right? It's already there. And if you do have a customization in a certain part of the country or quirk on how you want to do things, fully customizable. You can adjust any of it at any point and put your own SOPs in place and utilize all of our automations. It includes a website for your property or property management company. It includes one of the things that we're building out right now is like reputation management. So it'll actually go to your tenants after you have an experience with a tenant and give them a thumb up or a thumb down email. And they click thumbs up. That means they had a great experience. It takes them straight to the public Google reviews, give a 5-star review, and it'll jump your reviews up for your management company or for the property, which is where everybody looks first. If it's thumbs down, they can take them to a forum. They scream and yell and complain about what their experience was. It stays internal and private. Your team then has an opportunity to fix that problem. And then that 1-star review never hits Google or Yelp or any of the other platforms. We implemented this in some of our properties that we took back from third-party management. When we were in the 1-star and 2-star ratings, we are now in 3.5 to 4.5-star ratings across all those properties inside 6 to 12 months. And it has completely changed our ability to attract quality tenants. And now we have an influx of all these people who want to rent. We're in the top 10 buildings in the entire city in one of the communities that we're in. We have 4 of the top 10 buildings are our buildings, our 4 buildings that we have there. So it's like, dude, it's a complete game changer for everything.
What's the name of the software?
Smart Management, smartmanagement.com. So like it obsesses over optimizing net operating income, driving revenue. Here's a bunch of different ideas and suggestions on how to make more money with your property. And it's attacking line by line all the expenses that you're paying for. It says, hey, you're overpaying for insurance. We'd like to invite you on. You're a great operator. We'd like to invite you on to our master insurance policy, which will help you save between 10 to 30% and for the same coverage and or better coverage. And there's things like that we're offering through the software that nobody else offers that directly impacts positively the net operating income of these properties. So you can tell I'm fired up about it, man. I'm excited.
I love the energy around it. I guess next natural.
It's a desperate need. It's like desperately needed in the operating.
And I know what a lot of people probably listen to this are already thinking, like, how the heck do I get a demo of this thing or reach out and find out more about this?
Like, it's such a big need. We actually have a wait list of 100,000 rental units right now.
Wow.
So
incredible.
Yeah. Our investor base controls about 30,000 doors, and they're going to be on, like, it's with my portfolio right now as the recording of this in Q2 of 2026. So starting in April, we'll be bringing on outside portfolios. And we're going to start with our investor base.
Yep.
And then onboard those. And then as we grow the team and make sure that everything's good, we will be opening up to the public. And we have a wait list with the public of about 80,000 doors. So we're if you're interested, just go to Smart Management. You can get added to the wait list. You can schedule a demo with our team, and all that. So awesome. It's exciting, man. We're going to make some big waves and really shake some stuff up. It's one of those things where you're like, well, AppFolio is a $10 billion company, Tim. They're just going to come in and squash you like a bug. AppFolio can't do what we do. They built their software 25 years ago on a platform that they'd have to break their entire system. right? And they're not willing to do that being a publicly traded company and have a big loss for several quarters in a row in order to then ramp it all back up, maybe a year or two in a row, right? Like they just couldn't afford to do that. And so it's just not going to happen, right? They just can't compete. They're gonna keep on pushing, and they're going to try to acquire somebody like us in order to then be able to capitalize on it. So it'll be like these other guys. You need $50 million and at least 5 years of time in order to develop what we've developed. It's over the top awesome. I know everybody thinks their software is awesome, but like I've been on calls, like we have like people who are in the venture capital, who are in the software space, who understand this stuff inside and out. And they're like, what you guys have built is just over the top and amazing and super cool to see. And they've come in as investors on an individual basis, not with their firms, because we're not willing to give up 80% equity or whatever. So,
Right.
but we have some really, really cool stuff that we're working on. We're gonna do a short-term rental module that'll be released this year as well. So like,
That's huge.
I have several apartment buildings that have short-term rentals in it too, and I need 2 different softwares in order to manage all that. This will integrate all of it together in one spot. Nothing to worry about. And you can easily transition from a short-term rental, a mid-term rental, corporate rental, or a long-term rental, like very simply in the system. And even if you got a hotel or a boutique hotel or a whole short-term rental portfolio, it can handle all of it. So yeah, single family, multifamily, if you got triple net lease, if you have office buildings, if you have flex warehouse space and industrial, anything, it can manage anything.
So last question before we wrap. How do people reach out to you?
Yeah, man, connect with me on social media. I'm active. We're connected on social media and through some different mastermind stuff that we do. But yeah, I love staying connected and seeing what everybody's doing through Instagram and Facebook and LinkedIn and all that stuff. So I'm on all of those. Feel free to connect with me there. And smartmanagement.com is our website for that side. But yeah, man, I loved your questions. I'll tell you what, this was like a fun interview for me. Sometimes I get a lot of the same questions. You went really deep. You went at different angles and asked really good questions that I think we can provide a lot of value with. So I appreciate you having me, and I appreciate the questions and the thought that went into all of it.
Thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and it's a pleasure every time we get to connect. So we'll see you
For
soon,
sure,
brother.
man. Thanks, Andrew.